Today, we're going to talk about the Tier 8 Premium IJN battleship Daisen, which is available for purchase to the tune of 25,000 steel in the Forge. And with the other choices in the Forge being USS Missouri and USS Salem, you might be asking yourself, why would I want to buy a Tier 8 Premium 8-gun IJN battleship when we've already got one of those in the game in the form of the Iwami? In fact, you might say the hull of the Daisen even looks a little bit like the Iwami, and Daisen also gets long-range torpedoes like the Iwami. So why would you pick this ship for 25,000 steel when you could get the Salem or Missouri? Well, that is a question I hope to answer with this video, because the Daisen, unlike the Iwami, can be built as a brawling battleship. Now, I think there have been some reviews posted to YouTube by fellow CCs that say this ship is absolutely not a brawler. Unfortunately, Spartan Elite 43, I'm here to prove to you that you are incorrect. This thing absolutely can work as a brawler, and in fact, I would recommend you build it that way. I'm using Kondo at the helm. I've got him maxed out. His inspirations are Hipper and Haruna. And right away, we're going to get into some secondary action. But what I want to do is run down the stats real quick so you know what we're working with here. Keep in mind, the stats are influenced by my Kondo build, but let's pause for a second, take a look at this Schlieffen as we fire our main guns and launch some torpedoes his way. Main guns not getting extremely effective damage, but the secondaries, once they start opening up, you're going to see that they are actually going to damage the Schlieffen, and they're going to start some fires too. We've just got to get in range of them, which we should be right now. Anyway, as the secondaries are singing against the Schlieffen, let's talk about the stats. We've got 69,300 HP, which is maybe not a lot compared to other Tier 8 battleships, but I think it's more or less fine. We also enjoy 53% torpedo damage reduction, which, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think that is the best torpedo damage reduction in the game. 53%. The guns, we've already talked about them a little bit. They are 8 16-inch or 410mm guns. Without any kind of range buffs, they only range out to 17.1 kilometers, which may be somewhat problematic if you are going to use a brawler build, but, you know, it's fine. They reload in 29 seconds. They've got a turret traverse time for 180 degrees of 35 seconds. HE hits for a max of 6,500 with a 30% fire chance. AP 12,900 when you hit the Citadel. And then the secondaries. We've got 20 127mm secondaries and 16 140mm secondaries. Both of them, with a full secondary build, range out to 10.6, perhaps not as far as you can get the Germans to range out, but certainly long enough to get the job done. The smaller ones have an 8% fire chance, the larger ones a 10% fire chance, and both of them, with their small secondary HE shells, hit for over 2,000 damage. 2,100 on the smaller ones, 2,400 on the larger ones. And as you could see, with the sequence against the Schlieffen, they do actually do damage when they hit. And you'll see later, they hit so much and so frequently, and start so many fires, that you can get a Witherer using nothing but the secondaries. A little bit of a spoiler alert. Thing also has torpedoes, but it's actually got more torpedoes than the Iwami. Here we have 16 of them in 4 quadruple launchers, 2 on either side of the ship. The angles are not necessarily great. They can't really be fired all that much forward. And for the second torpedo launcher, you have to be giving flat broadside or you have to be in a kiting position in order to launch those. It's much like the main line of the IJN cruisers in that respect. But the torpedoes have a 10 km range, they do 67 knots, and they hit for 20,000 damage. So they are proper IJN torpedoes. AA defense, probably not worth mentioning. It's got an aggregate rating of 90, but, well, I haven't run into too many CVs to really test it out. Maneuverability, we've got a top speed base of 36 knots, although I think that does include the speed flag. We have a really bad turning circle, though, of 1,100 meters, and a fairly responsive rudder shift of 16 seconds. And then the concealment with Kondo at the helm and with concealment mod is 12.9 kilometers by sea. Not bad at all. There, by the way, the guns, which we do not have any accuracy inspirations for them whatsoever, are able to take out the Yoshino. The Daisen, I think, has 2.0 Sigma, which theoretically means it's one of the more accurate battleships in the game. If you don't build for that accuracy, the guns are absolutely not consistent and the dispersion can look awful, but sometimes it gets dialed in and gets the job done. You've got these secondaries, though, which once you get into range can, of course, deal some damage. So, with all this being put together, how should this ship really be played? Well, I think you can play it as a brawler, and once we take out this Alaska, I want you to take note of the mini-map and why we were so aggressive in making this push. Now that the Alaska is gone, the entire rest of the enemy team is more or less concentrated inside the Charlie Cap, aside from this single battleship which is in the center of the map. This means the enemy has completely given up map control with their battleships. And I am able to come in here and create a crossfire with the friendly battleship that is to the south of Charlie. He's bow tanking all of the remaining enemy battleships here, and we theoretically are going to have their broadsides. And we can get into position very, very quickly with the engine boost in effect. In fact, I think this ship can hit a speed of just over 40 knots with the engine boost. And as such, I think this is a high-speed flanking battleship that you ideally want to sail into a flank and brawl with the enemies over there. Now, of course, it takes forever for you to turn all the way because of your 1100 turning circle radius, but even with that, the ship does change directions quite quickly thanks to the rather responsive rudder shift. And as long as you can guarantee that you're pushing in at the right time and you're not going to have to fight a number of ships at one time that are going to have your broadside, I guess you could say that about literally any battleship you take into a brawl, but as long as you do it wisely and safely, this thing can really get the job done. And it's important to take note of this particular sequence here. Take a look at the team lineup. It's 3v5 right now. We are one battleship. We've got a cruiser and a destroyer versus 4 enemy battleships and a destroyer. And all of these enemy battleships are really, really healthy. So you might think, okay, well, fairly hopeless, right? Well, not really, because we've preserved our HP in the beginning of the game. We've dealt with the alpha flank quite easily, and now we're here at full HP to deal with these battleships who are all in the same grid square. Now, I've talked about this ad nauseum, but this is criminal misplay of the battleship as a class. The entire purpose of the battleship is to gain map control by way of creating crossfires. You cannot do that if all of your battleships are in one place on the map. And because they are, that means I only have to angle to one place on the map. I don't have to worry about my broadside getting blapped. I can push into these guys and deal as much damage as I can. The only thing I need to worry about is the Holland, who is right over there. And in retrospect, I probably should have shot at him with the main guns. He's got almost no HP, and I think we could easily take him out. But I do target him with the secondaries, and I was, kind of seeing if maybe those could take him out. And of course, we are so fast that the Holland cannot land his torpedoes on us. So we're able to push in here, pretty much safe, against the Carl Johan. The GK has already gone around the corner. Johan, we get a good hit with the front guns, and then we've got Iwami here. But remember, there are 4 battleships. We've seen 3. Where is the 4th? Well, we're going to figure that out soon. And this might be a good time to tell you that the Daisen actually has turtleback armor, which I think is sometimes effective. We're going to see an example of it being effective here, I think, and then we're going to see an example of it being decidedly not effective. In any case, as soon as we commit to this turn, we see that the Montana is spotted. Oh no, what a scary, scary thing. But turtleback armor. Montana shoots us as we're slightly angled. His shells do not hit our citadel. They do a fair amount of damage, but we're still alive as our torpedoes make contact with the Iwami, taking him out. And then the torpedoes are still going to be able to hit the Montana and do a little bit of extra damage. Don't forget about the Carl Johan, though. He was going around the corner. He's got no HP left, and so he is back to port. Second kill of the game. Confederate medal with that one. Montana, now at half HP. He was at full HP when this sequence started, but in the heat of this rather exciting sequence, I did forget about the Xarkun first, who comes around the corner and is able to take me out. Actually, the turtleback might have worked there. I don't think that was a Citadel. Initially, I thought it was, but looking back at it, I think that was just some nice pens on the GK's part and not a Citadel. In any case, we're dead. But that push has got us over 250,000 damage, and it started off against 4 relatively healthy battleships. Well, take a look at the Montana. He's not very healthy anymore. He's still burning or flooding thanks to our secondaries or torps, and he's going to give us the It's Just a Flesh Wound and Witherer medals as he goes down for our third kill. That just leaves the GK with almost no HP. GK is perma-spotted by our last remaining destroyer, and the cruiser is able to farm him from the safety of the smoke screen. So we've done enough in this game to win. And this, I think, is why the Daisen is in the forge for 25,000 steel. Sure, you could put Takagi on this thing, and then you would have more accurate main battery guns with longer range. You would still have the 10 km torpedoes, but you wouldn't have the secondaries, and if you use gyrating drill bits, you would also not have the full speed. I think you need all of that in order to make this ship work as intended. I think Daisen absolutely is a brawler with the secondaries, the turtleback armor, and the high speed. The high speed, I think, here is the key that brings it all together, because you can travel around the map pretty much faster than any other battleship. And as long as you can get into secondary range, and you can ensure that you protect yourself by good use of positioning and armor angling, then you can have a really, really fun time brawling it out with the Daisen. This is not the only example I have of brawling working well with this ship, but it is the best example, and I hope you enjoyed it. You may want to consider getting Daisen, although I think, even though I had fun in this ship, I would absolutely recommend getting the Salem or Missouri before this ship. However, I don't think it's necessarily a bad purchase, especially if you build it as a brawler. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.